Joining us now is retired NFL player and entrepreneur Jack Brewer. Sir, welcome to Newsmax.
Great to be with you.
All right. I wish it was under better circumstances, but unfortunately, there's a lot of talk about guns, but this is a cultural issue. I laid it out earlier in the show about the fact that, some countries with more guns have less gun crime. Some countries with less guns have more crime. But how much of a factor are the fact that we have single motherhood soaring out of control? We have kids dropping out of high school at record numbers, especially in certain classes and economic and racial classes, that we don't have the same nuclear family encouraged in our own structure today. How much of that is a factor to this?
It's a huge factor. I mean, let's be honest, we lead the world in fatherlessness. We have over 18.5 million fatherless kids in our nation, and it hadn't always been that way. I mean, you go back into the 50s and 60s, particularly with African Americans, the majority of our kids were born in two-parent households, strong family structure. We all know that as men, you need a masculine male influence, and we've done nothing for the past 20 years except try to destruct masculinity across the board. And it's paying a big, big price right now. Even when you talk about church participation, I saw a report lately that said it's less than 30% church participation for millennials right now in the United States of America. So spiritually, we are as weak as we've ever been. Our schools are now indoctrinating our kids, putting all these sexual classes in place, just speaking to them about things that they have no business doing. They can't pray in school anymore. They've removed God from school. And so there is no fear of God. And as we all know, you got to fear something when you're a child. You got to think that, when you see an 8 or 9 or 10-year-old kid, you don't want to kill them. You want to help them. But kids like this don't have that fear of God in them, and they will do incredibly disturbing and sick things like we've just witnessed.
Well, there's no material respect for human life, too. I think that's the biggest thing. I want to talk about the cop issue. We were hearing that reports of police officers didn't rush into the building when the gunman was there for over an hour, and it took just one lone Customs and Border Patrol officer to take action when he killed the shooter. But let me ask you, though, for the last, 8 years, we've basically had a movement in America that has second-guessed and criticized cops at every single corner. They've shoved body cameras down their throats. They've second-guessed things that they've had to make decisions in a half a second. And this hesitancy, is it a part of that entire movement? Is this the new policing that we can expect under the fear that they're going to be prosecuted? God forbid they go in and shoot this gunman without some higher order that they were waiting for?
Well, first off, police officers are scared to do anything these days because they know what prices they'll have to pay if they make a wrong move. Not just that, if you look at most police departments across the nation, they are having a very difficult time hiring. No one wants to go in and be police officers anymore because of the scrutiny that they're put through and castrating them in their own communities. And so whenever you have that, of course, you're going to have the results are going to be maybe poor decisions from police officers. Maybe you're not going to have police officers as active anymore. When I grew up, they were heroes, and now all of a sudden they're the bad guys. And so you wonder what folks are really going to do in these communities. Are they going to stand up for this liberal woke way of thinking that wants to demonize police officers, call for the defunding of police departments, or are families and common folk going to actually stand up for the law enforcement officers that they all know are regular moms and dads and brothers and sisters, and are they going to really stand for righteousness and truth in this nation, or are we going to continue to allow the loud, woke, leftist agenda to rule our land?
Well, that's the problem, is we've seen an entire movement of lawlessness perpetuated, and they've criticized cops for everything. We've seen cops go to jail for something as like murder when they're responding to a threat. And the problem I'm seeing here, Jack, is that we don't have enough accountability in our schools, in our communities, through the churches and things like that. How do you bring it back? I got about a minute left.
You have to start calling out sin. We can't have this huge gray area where we are embracing and endorsing sin across our nation. The president just today came out, and you're going to punish schools through their lunch programs because they don't want to put transgender bathrooms in elementary schools. And so all of a sudden now we're going to be preaching transgenderism when we know the word of God teaches us the truth. God created man and woman. And as a nation, are we going to be a nation that follows God's truth, or are we going to listen to this woke liberal agenda? And at some point in time, we have to promote, push, and support men and women of God who are going to lead our nation and stop bowing down to this antichrist spirit that's plagued our land.
Yeah, sometimes you have to stand up and do what's right. And, you may not be a religious person at home sitting there watching this right now, but you know what? It definitely has the teachings of deep morality. So, Jack Brewer, we appreciate you joining us tonight.
Thank you, brother.
All right.